I'm Brent James, Intermountain Healthcare's Chief Quality Officer and head of the Intermountain Institute for Healthcare Delivery Research. Welcome to the second module in Intermountain's 100% participation series. Before starting this module, you should have already completed Module 1. In Module 1, you learned about processes, outputs, and customers. Many customers are end users, people outside our organization who use our products or services. Other customers are coworkers. We create something that others within Intermountain use to accomplish their own work. In Module 1, we discussed the idea of expectations and define quality as the degree to which we meet or exceed customer expectations. We also introduced two tools, tally sheets and process output customer grids. A tally sheet is any simple method for capturing data on the fly as you work. Working with your coach, you use tally methods to create a process output customer grid for your own work. By completing the exercise in Module 1, you should have gained a clearer picture of the underlying processes by which you create value and justify your salary. In this module, we cover two new tools, cause and effect diagrams and Pareto charts. These tools use data to identify and prioritize problems and opportunities. They help people focus first on the things that matter most, where action can have the biggest impact. At the end of this module, we assign another exercise. We will ask you to prioritize the processes you identified in your process outputs customer grid using tally sheets, cause and effect diagrams, and Pareto charts. Once you have completed this module, you should debrief its content with your manager or local improvement coach. That same person should be available to help you as you do the hands-on exercise. Cause and effect diagrams are sometimes called fishbone diagrams because they look like a fish skeleton with a head, a spine, and bones. They are also referred to as Ishikawa charts after Dr. Kaoru Ishikawa, the Japanese professor who first invented them. A cause and effect diagram is a graphical display of an organized list of possible causes, solutions, or factors focused on a single topic or objective. It can help you home in on the causes, not just the symptoms of a problem. It takes 3 steps to build a cause and effect diagram. First, identify your target. The target is the effect or aim you want to clarify or understand. It is sometimes called a problem statement. It helps if you keep your target tightly focused. Getting the aim of your cause and effect diagram right is worth some time and thought. This is often the most important step in generating a useful cause and effect diagram. Once you have your aim identified, draw a box at the right-hand edge of a piece of paper. Write your aim in that box. It may be necessary to use a shorthand version of the aim to get it to fit in the box on the paper. Make sure to keep the full version of your aim, though, available for easy reference. In this example, a nursing group chose to focus on fall protocol not followed as their problem aim. If you are working with a team, discuss the aim with them in detail. Make sure that all team members have input and agree on the problem statement. Be certain that everyone understands its boundaries. Change the aim statement if you need to. Next, draw a long arrow left to right across the entire page, pointing into the box that holds the aim. The arrow is the spine of your fishbone diagram, feeding into the head, which is your aim box. The arrow graphically indicates that the items that feed into the spine could possibly cause the factor you listed in the head. Second, think about the main general categories of potential causes that could produce the effect. In other words, the target, the aim, or the problem that is listed in the box. Draw these as large slanted bones feeding into the spine. As a general rule, try to find somewhere between about 4 and 6 major categories, although you can have more or less if that turns out to fit your problem. For example, some groups start with the 5 M's: man or people, materials, methods, Mother Nature or environment, and machinery or tools that you use. Others sometimes use the 4 P's: people, procedures, policies, and physical plant. These categories are not by themselves causes, those come later. Listing general categories, though, as broadly as you can, will help people hold on to a broad view. Otherwise, human beings have a tendency to get focused on just one area and overlook other areas that may hold important factors. If you are working with a team, have your team help you identify the categories. Make sure that everyone in the team understands what each category means. Finally, third, generate a list of all the factors that could possibly cause the effect listed in your aim box. As you generate each item, add it as a small bone coming off one of the large category lines. Sometimes you might have several similar items which all fit into a single subcategory. Show them as still smaller bones under a single cause. One of the biggest challenges in building a cause and effect diagram is to be sure that the small bones have a causal relationship to the end effect. Sometimes people will just list a catalog of factors when there is not a clear relationship to the aim. You can often turn those sorts of items into causes by asking yourself the question, what is it about this particular item that might cause the effect listed as our aim? Now, when you're finished, your cause and effect diagram should list all of the possible causes, problems, solutions, or other factors relating to your aim, or at least nearly all of the critical factors. It will also roughly organize them into categories. Anytime you generate a list of all possible causes, solutions, factors, or sources, that list is technically a cause and effect diagram. For example, your process outputs customer grid is just such a list. Each individual process contributes to the aim of producing useful work for customers. Remember that a cause and effect diagram only lists potential causes. Before moving to action, you need to verify which potential causes are actual causes. As important, not all actual causes are equal. Some of them will have a much larger impact on your aim than others. For that, you need data. Cause and effect diagrams make wonderful tally sheets. In fact, that is one of their most common uses. You tally against the items listed in your cause and effect diagram over some period of time as you go about your daily work. You can tally how often something happens. Just pencil in another hash mark every time a particular cause occurs. You can also jot down its size. For example, how much time something took in minutes or hours. Or how bad something was, say, on a 3-point scale, like minor, major, or catastrophic. Once you have your tally data, you're ready for a Pareto chart. A Pareto chart sorts out actual causes from potential causes. It does that by listing the possible causes in size order from the biggest to the smallest. It usually takes the form of a bar chart ordered from biggest to smallest. Pareto charts are based on something called the 80-20 rule. That's the idea that, very often, about 20% of all causes account for about 80% of total effect. Many people actually add a line to their bar chart that shows cumulative total to the left and mark where it crosses 80% of the total effect. You might want to generate several Pareto charts around the same problem. For example, one Pareto chart might just show frequency, or a count of how often something happens. It would use your tally data to chart the number of times each cause happens, sorted from the most frequent to the least frequent. Another might sort the causes in terms of average total impact, based on some sort of a size measure that you've tallied. For example, the amount of time that each cause consumed, averaged across all of the times that that particular cause happened. A third Pareto chart might combine both frequency and size by multiplying the number of occurrences times the average size of each occurrence to give you a total overall impact. Sometimes people display a Pareto chart not as a bar graph, but as an ordered table. While tables lose the graphical impact of a chart, a picture really can be worth 10,000 words. They sometimes can show a whole lot more detail. A finished set of Pareto charts will show you where your biggest problems or opportunities lie as a key step toward taking effective action. As important, it uses data to get you there, data-based problem solving. That brings us to the exercise associated with this module. We want you to get some hands-on experience with database tools for problem identification and prioritization by using cause and effect diagrams, tally sheets, and Pareto charts. Would you please prioritize the work processes that you identified in Module 1 using your Process Outputs Customer Grid? In other words, use your Process Outputs Customer Grid as a cause and effect diagram. You may find that you need to modify it a bit as this step moves along. That's okay, it'll just make it better. Collect tally data. I suggest that you might want to think about how often you find yourself using a particular work process. Just make another stroke next to it in your tally sheet each time you use it. You might want to think about how much time it takes. Make an entry estimating how many minutes or hours you spent each time you use it. And finally, how critical is it to your customers, your team, or to you? For example, you might categorize each process in your list according to whether it is nice when you can get to it. It should be done, but it's not essential. Or perhaps it's absolutely critical. If we don't get it done and done right, everything falls apart, work grinds to a halt, people die, hopefully just metaphorically. Well, use your tally data to build one or more Pareto charts that analyze and prioritize your own work processes. Your local coach can be a real help as you prioritize your work processes. Be sure to attend your coach's debrief on this module. As you do the exercise, share any problems you encounter or insights you discover. Your coach is very familiar with these tools in a broad array of settings and can pull in other related tools as well.